Good morning and welcome. I am Terry McGuire and I'm Secretary of this congregation's Board of Trustees. I have some announcements for you this morning. The Restructuring Task Force Focus Group number 2 will be held after service today. And now there is an option to attend on Zoom if you're not present here in the congregation. Even if you're diligent about reading the community connections every week, you won't have seen this particular announcement because it's brand new. On February 6th at 7 p.m., at the usual gathering spot for Taco Tuesday, there will be a Zoom-only focus group. And that is for anyone who has missed something or just wants to attend again. This week, Taco Tuesday will be held at its usual time and place, 7 p.m. on Tuesday on Zoom. And that's just normal Taco Tuesday. On Tuesday, also the 16th of January, the Board of Trustees will meet. That is at 6:30 and on Zoom. On January 17th, Wednesday, Gathering Around Grief is held in the Founders Room at 7 p.m. Upcoming events include on January 28th, the mid-year budget review. This is a quick meeting to go over where we are currently in our budget halfway through the fiscal year. And that will be at about 11:45 after the service and before focus group number 4. And in case you haven't noticed, there is a focus group being held after service every Sunday in January. There is also a new member informational meeting on February 4th. Time to be announced, but probably sometime after service. This is for anyone who's interested in becoming a member and wants to learn more about our faith and our congregation. And now I will turn it over to our minister, Reverend Maggie.
Thank you, dear Terry, and hello, everyone. How great to be here and for all of us to be together. And welcome. Welcome to our visitors. It looks like Reverend Ellen has her son with her today. Welcome. From the East Coast, I believe. Well, boy, then he should be up here. No, we'll hold you up. Yes. Wonderful. I hope you feel welcome. I'm glad you're here. And so is Mom, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm trying out something new today. Having the MacBook here instead of papers down here. I thought, it always seems like I'm looking down. I don't want to look down. I want to look at folks. So I'm trying this. So thank you for your patience. And also, before we get going, today when we showed up, and there were only 3 or 4 of us here, unlocking doors, running around, turning on the heat, making it cozy for you, there was, and this is evidence that I always say, you know, the light isn't always the best thing. Sometimes we need the dark, because when Jaryus flicked the switch on, bright lights. So we almost didn't have a sound system or any kind of Zoom. So guess what? Round of applause for Jaryus and Steve and Bob Taylor for getting us back up. You can't see, and maybe the Zoom camera can't see either, but there's a teeny little sound system on wheels that we were going to use to just have our own little church here. But it's so much better to have the service with those online and those who will watch the recording. We're really grateful. So here we are, and it's January, and it is mid-January, but we haven't had a chance yet to sing happy birthday to those in January who have a birthday. So can we have a show of hands? Who's got a birthday in January besides Martin Luther King? Anybody? Not a one. Oh, there's one without a hand. Who we point?
Anjali.
Oh, Anjali. Is she here? Or she's out. Oh, of course. Anjali on the playground. So let's sing happy birthday, and when we get to the name, we'll just sing really quickly. January babies. So I invite you to sing along. Thanks, Lily. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, January babies. Happy birthday to you. Yeah. And of course, our whole service today is about celebrating the birth of Martin Luther King Jr. But to open our service, we ring our bowl 3 times. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We ring it for yesterday and those who came before. For our ancestors, our founding members, for the Tongva and other indigenous peoples whose matrilineal societies cared deeply for this land that we now name as our home. We ring it to celebrate today. We welcome all of those gathered here, those joining online, our staff, our visitors, our friends and sustaining members, our partnership congregation in the Philippines, all who walk with us on this spiritual journey that we share. And we ring it for as we wait for tomorrow. We ring it for all who will come walk beside us on this spiritual path that is ever unfolding. We have an opening song. It is known as the Black National Anthem. It is in your Singing the Living Tradition hymnal, number 149. I invite you to stand and sing out as we sing. Lift every voice and sing. Beautiful, thank you. We got to sing that more often, not just this weekend. We light our chalice now, a symbol of our UU faith, and I call up Terry McGuire once again from her place in the choir. And we light it with these words from Tracy Johnson. We light our chalice this morning to be the light of our creative spirits, light of our wise souls, light of our wondering and curious minds, light of love for this place, this people, and this work. May it illumine our hearts and the spaces between them in this sacred time of unfolding. Blessed be. Now we'll sing our anthem. I invite you to stand again as you're comfortable and remain standing after we sing Spirit of Life, and we'll read together our congregational covenant. Let's sing Spirit of Life, 2 verses, the first in English, second in Spanish. We recite in unison. We affirm that love is the greatest purpose of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to make choices for a healthier planet, and to live out our Unitarian, Universalist values every day as beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Please be seated. Wow, awesome. Whew. Another one we have to do more often. Very good. Our wisdom tale today will be shared with us by Robert Tidwell. There he is. It is entitled, Be Curious, and it's a wonderful poem.
Hello, everybody. Be curious. Now I need to be honest here right off the bat. Curiosity possibly has killed a cat, or 2 or 3, but here's a fact. Curiosity's given us much more than that. It's the reason you're you. It's the reason we're here. And perhaps you can't see it, but let me be clear. From the edges of space to the depths of the ocean, curiosity comes in perpetual motion. It's every invention you might care to mention, from motor car rumbles to rocket ascension. It powers computers, it choreographs dances, its medical marvels and wondrous advances. It's the weight of an apple, the scientist's speaker, the roof of the chapel, the call of Eureka. It forms the foundations of deep conversations and senses vibrations in far constellations. It walks to the poles and it discovers new nations, climbs mountains, builds fountains, exceeds expectations. It's fabric, it's dinner, it's riding your bike, it's airplanes, music, and electrical lights. It's taking a chance, it's daring to dream, it's being yourself, whatever that means. And perhaps curiosity sealed the cat's fate, but it's also the reason that people are great. So I'm willing to risk making feline fans furious, as I strongly advise you, always be curious. And now if the children that are present can come up and get our cellos, you guys can sing us to our classes.
Have a great time. As a spiritual community whose good stewardship is second nature and whose generosity is always its first response, we have chosen to live out our compassion by gathering our undesignated offerings and splitting them 50-50 with a local charity pre-selected by our justice team and approved by the board. For the month of January, our Share the Plate offerings will be shared with 111 Hope Foundation, the 501c3 organization created by those that we know as our own, the Salgado family. Last Sunday, Caitlin Salgado spoke about this foundation created by her and her husband, Emmanuel. Here are just a few of her words. At 111 Hope Foundation, we believe in the power of hope and the potential for new beginnings. Our mission is to uplift and empower our community, offering a helping hand to those in need. Whether it's providing warm meals and essential support to the unhoused and low-income families, supplying school materials and mentorship to youth, or offering veterans the means to dress for success in job interviews. We're dedicated to fostering positive change. I know that we can all fully support this work that one of our families is doing in the world. All of the offerings taken up in December that are not designated by you to fulfill your pledge or other fund drives will be shared 50-50 with 111 Hope Foundation. So for now, while we enjoy Lily's beautiful offertory, I invite those in the sanctuary to please come forward with your generous offerings. And it is with deep gratitude for the many, many gifts within our community that our offering will now be given and received. This is the time in our liturgy where that we enjoy sharing the things that are happening in our lives. Some are delights, some are disappointments, some are smiles, some are sighs. We used to call it joys and sorrows, but that seems very extreme, and may we not live in the extreme, but find our center in that place where sighs and smiles are both welcome. I have one from Jimmy. This is like joy times 10 to the 10th power. He typed this into his phone, probably while you're supposed to be singing. Ready? Got your seatbelts on, folks? Listen. Friday, I walked 900 steps. Wow. Okay, now get your tissues out. In February, they want me to start working at the home, walking with the home physical therapist. Maybe by April, I will be walking here with my church. Whew. That's a tough one to follow. Tough act to follow is right. This one comes from Reverend Ellen. Her joy that her son Marcus is here. We celebrate you too, Marcus. And you do resemble your mom. Wow. I know you love hearing that. D. Richards. D. D says, I got an internship in writing with the Phi Beta Kappa National Office. Congratulations. This one is from Ellen and George. Ellen writes, it was a joy to get here early today and to enjoy the wonderful choir practice. Yeah, it was. I think that's all I have here. I have some that I had put in before we got here, but thank you all for using this segment of the service. It's so important. Jaryus, you have a picture that I had texted you. Can you put that up? There it is. That is our beloved Joyce Armenta. She has been on the facilities team here for decades, 30 years at least. This is Joyce with her great-grandson, Samuel Oscar Sanchez, this is the first time she was able to hold him. And we wonder if prayer and our good intentions and our love has an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. And Jeannie Coates is back with us after many weeks. She had her own run-in with the dreaded virus named COVID.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. And at the same time, her daughter, Diana.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. And her daughter, Diana, is recovering well at home in Utah after a successful removal of a brain tumor. Blessed be, is right.
Yeah, it's not been a month, and she actually had an emergency and had to drive, and did.
Oh! I won't tell the doctor.
Yeah, no, she won't either.
Yeah. And, Jimmy, this is a good bookend for Jimmy's joy, which was, what did I say? 10 stars to the 10th power. Years ago, when I was maybe just an intern, I learned about the congregation's wish to use some of our land to install a labyrinth as part of the garden. There was a huge lot of work being done toward that. Some of the people involved, and I hate to name any because I don't want to leave anyone out, but I know Catherine and Maribel and Jeannie Coates and Cynthia Humes were at the center of this plan, this hope. We've kind of adjusted the plan. When we did our grant to do a facilities refresh, part of that plan was to do something with the land that we own that's kind of sitting fallow right now, except for what the city is dumping there. But that's another story. So what we want to do eventually is to make a garden area out there. We'll see. But in the meantime, some of the funding that we raised for that grant was sitting reserved for the labyrinth project. Well, the person that made this very large donation, who always wishes to remain anonymous, and she will, but her initials are Cynthia Hume. She wrote a letter to the board and asked the board if they would please release her designated donation, and buy the congregation a gift. What we have in a box down here, Frank, you want to help me? Is a canvas labyrinth that is 21 feet 9 inches wide in all directions. It is a path we can spread out in the sanctuary or on the patio and share. Oh, Vanna, why?
Really long.
You can keep pulling. Shall we keep pulling? Yeah. So this labyrinth, can we just open some of it so we can tell that it looks like a labyrinth? Let's try that.
It just keeps on coming.
So we will be creating a very special evening, maybe afternoon, we'll figure it out. Time? Yeah, yeah. This belongs to us. So eventually I want to have events where we can invite the public to come in and walk the labyrinth and find their center, like we will today. You know what? You can just leave it down.
Speaking of finding the center,
Oh, no, because when we did the offering already, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, thank you. But there we have it. So thank you, Cynthia, if you are on, yeah, let's get the box. So thank you, Catherine, Maribel, Jeannie, and Cynthia. We're so grateful. And the board for making the decision to go ahead with Cynthia's wish. This was her request, that we spend the money and get this in the meantime to get us through. We like being at the in-between of a lot of things, I guess. That was a lot of smiles and sighs, but more smiles than sighs, I think. But now it's time to pray. My prayer today will be spoken in the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Please join me in that spirit of prayer. Most gracious and all-wise God, before whose face the generations rise and fall, thou in whom we live and move and have our being, we thank thee for all of thy good and gracious gifts, for life, for health, for food, and for raiment, for the beauties of nature and for human nature. We come before thee painfully aware of our inadequacies and our shortcomings. We realize that we stand surrounded with the mountains of love, and we deliberately dwell in the valley of hate. We stand amid the forces of truth, and we deliberately lie. We are forever offered the high road, and yet we choose to travel on the low road. For these sins, O God, break the spell of that which blinds our minds. Purify our hearts that we may see thee. O God, in these turbulent days when fear and doubt are mounting high, give us broad visions, penetrating eyes, and the power of endurance. Help us to work with renewed vigor for a warless world, for a better distribution of wealth, for a brother and sisterhood that transcends race or color. In the name and the spirit of Jesus, I am here, taking a stand for what I believe is right. But now I am afraid. The people are looking to me for leadership, and if I stand before them without strength and courage, they too will falter. and I am at the end of my powers. I have nothing left. I've come to the point where I can't face it alone. Dearest Jesus, come sit with us today. Show us the lies that are still embedded in the soul of America's consciousness. Unmask the untruths that we have made into our best friends. For they seek our destruction, and we are being destroyed. Reveal the ways the lies have distorted and destroyed our relationships, because they break your shalom daily. Jesus, give us the courage to embrace the truth about ourselves and you and our world. It is truth. We are made in your image. Truth. You are God and money is not. Truth. You are God. Jails, bombs, and bullets are not. Jesus, give us the faith to believe that the redemption of people, relationships, communities, and whole nations is possible. Give us faith enough to renounce the lies and tear down the walls that separate us with our hands, with our feet, and with our votes. Eternal God, out of whom came this great cosmic universe, we bless you. Help us to seek that which is high, noble, and good. Amen. I invite you to remain seated for our gentle song. The choir will stand and will lead us in song as we all sing in unison. There is a balm in Gilead. If there ever were a minister who knew that fine line to weave church and state into a passionate, heart-centered call to action, it was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On April 4th, 1967, he delivered his first major public statement against the Vietnam War, entitled "Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break the Silence." Addressing a crowd of 3,000 at Riverside Church in New York City, Dr. King condemned the war as anti-democratic, impractical, and unjust. I'd like to invite Karen Lane to come and do our reading for today, Beyond Vietnam, Time to Break the Silence.
Thank you. For those who ask the question, aren't you a civil rights leader, and thereby mean to exclude me from the movement for peace, I have this further answer. In 1957, when a group of us formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, we chose as our motto to save the soul of America. We were convinced that we could not limit our vision to certain rights for Black people, but instead affirmed the conviction that America would never be free or saved from itself until the descendants of its slaves were loosed completely from the shackles they still wear. In a way, we were agreeing with Langston Hughes, that Black bard of Harlem, who had written earlier, "Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be." Now, it should be incandescently clear that no one who has any concern for the integrity and life of America today can ignore the present war. If America's soul becomes totally poisoned, part of the autopsy must read Vietnam. It can never be saved so long as it destroys the deepest hopes of men the world over. So it is that those of us who are yet determined that America will be are led down the path of protest and dissent, working for the health of our land. As if the weight of such a commitment to the life and health of America were not enough, another burden of responsibility was placed upon me in 1954. And I cannot forget that the Nobel Prize for Peace was also a commission to work harder than I had ever worked before for the brotherhood of man. This is a calling that takes me beyond national allegiances, but even if it were not present, I would yet have to live with the meaning of my commitment to the ministry of Jesus Christ. To me, the relationship of this ministry to the making of peace is so obvious that I sometimes marvel at those who ask me why I'm speaking against the war. Could it be that they do not know that the good news was meant for all men, for communist and capitalist, for their children and ours, for black and for white, for revolutionary and conservative? Have they not forgotten that my ministry is in obedience to the one who loved his enemies so fully that he died for them? What then can I say to the Viet Cong or to Castro or to Mao as a faithful minister of this one? Can I threaten them with death? Or must I not share with them my life? And finally, as I try to explain for you and for myself the road that leads from Montgomery to this place, I would have offered all that was most valid if I simply said that I must be true to my conviction that I share with all men the calling to be a son of the living God. Beyond the calling of race or nation or creed is this vocation of sonship and brotherhood. And because I believe that the Father is deeply concerned, especially for his suffering and helpless and outcast children, I come tonight to speak for them. This I believe to be the privilege and the burden of all of us who deem ourselves bound by allegiances and loyalties which are broader and deeper than nationalism and which go beyond our nation's self-defined goals and positions. We are called to speak for the weak, for the voiceless, for the victims of our nation, and for those it calls enemy. For no document from human hands can make these humans less our brothers.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Thank you. And thank you, Frank. It's good to have you here. Yay! Each week at the top of our order of service, we offer a centering thought. It's placed there as a gift, a nugget, usually taken from the words of a teacher, guru, or celebrity that has a connection to the theme we're exploring in our time together. Today it comes from Martin Luther King, whose birthday our nation will celebrate tomorrow. But what do we understand as the purpose of a centering thought? Is it a strand of words offered to lure you back into center? Is it intended to lead toward a specific consensual focus? Or is there more to it? Let's set off to see what finding our center is like, more than following that particular quote down the path that it opens for us. It is the challenge of every minister to find or create that inspired strand of centering thoughts that become the sermon or the message. And it is always the prayer of this minister that each of us find our center a bit more naturally and a lot more easily when we're together, aided by our gathering round the campfire of our chalice flame, where we find belonging and nourishment each week. Our time together in worship is offered as a spiritual haven, created and shaped to bring each of us closer to touch into our center, both the center of our individuality and our unique spiritual paths. And isn't it an incredible wonder that each of us have a different center? And also, as we come home to the center of our community here at MVUUC, our search for our communal center is our journey toward that place where we all gather to nourish our souls as individual seekers in a community of like-minded saints, as hungry hearts longing to grow spiritually and to be held in community, and as weary soldiers searching for safe and sacred ground, our base camp. In this world today, and on this small blue dot of a planet that we inhabit with nearly 8 billion of our relatives, it's an incredible gift to sense a unique longing within us that draws us closer to the spirit of life that we find at our core. Finding our center is not only a lofty spiritual goal, but a habitual, intentional, and necessary focus on the core of our grounding. Finding that center place that is vital to our soul, perhaps more than ever in these times. It is as vital as the food, the oxygen, and the exercise that we give to our bodies. Being centered in a world that is so off kilter is a gift of our faith. It's a gift that we're fortunate to receive and to treasure. Our centeredness and our search to find it is a gift of fellowship that we offer to each other and to the world. Finding our center is at its core a spiritual practice that is always and ever asking more of us than we thought we needed to give. It's always asking us to grow more, to reach higher, and to keep going with the dedication and a deepening commitment to that centering that we're longing for. Yet none of us are ever quite finished with our journey there. Show of hands. Anyone who's been able to cross a final threshold of sublime centeredness? No? A Buddha's not here today. Yeah. Mary Oliver reminds us of our Universalist theology that holds open the door to all in her poem, Wild Geese. And I thought I had my book here. Okay. Her words are a metaphor to the promise that lives within us, that finding our center and accessing the sacred is not something we must work hard to deserve, or a reward that we have to earn, or have granted to us by some lofty deity. But in fact, Mary Oliver writes that you don't even have to be good. You don't have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. And meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. So whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. It calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. And that's where we find our sense of center. It's a knowing. It's an arriving at that haven that we know is our place in the family of things, the nest of the divine. Our center is where we find ourselves every time. But there are just a few strings attached. Well, maybe only one, but it's a big one that we need to work hard at remembering. The only place we have access to our center is in the present. Not in the past, not in the future, but only and always in the now. So finding our center today is not that same center that we found in the 60s. Sorry. It's also not that center that we know that we're going to hit like a bullseye right after I read this new book I just ordered, or during that retreat that I signed up for at Esalen, or as soon as we take this next online course with the UUA. But yes, and yes, 1,000 times yes, we find our center in the now moment, this moment. And then we find it anew in every following now moment, as its familiarity becomes a North Star for us. But staying there in the present can seem nearly impossible when we find ourselves and those that we care about carrying so much difficulty in our lives. And like many of us, you may sense that in these tender times, those dirty, rotten, difficult, and undeserved struggles that knock us down seem to come out of nowhere lately. We might find ourselves crashing ashore, burdened with very real situations that keep us focused on finding fault with our lives, maybe in ways that we haven't ever experienced before, and we see no way out of. If that sounds even a bit familiar, you are in the right place. You are in good company. Because our community is one that values compassion and support for one another as we all seek to find our center, individually and communally. Finding our center is one of the best outcomes of our spiritual exploration. When our tender care of one another in this place of healing and recovery is held within the grounding of established spiritual practice that are meaningful to us, that fit within and at the same time help to stretch our understanding of the sacred, and they nourish our unfolding faith. There are several tried and true practices that we share in together in our community. We have Sunday worship, we have choir. Choir is church, isn't it? Children, spiritual exploration, we have a meditation group, we have a grief group. And as we continue to grow in spirit and we continue to explore new ways to center ourselves, our new labyrinth will provide a meaningful shared experience that will open the way and provide a path albeit a bit circular and twisty, toward finding our center. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to stand as we sing together our sending song. It's in the teal hymnal, and the words will be also on the screen. Go Lift It Up, and we'll follow Lily's lead with how many times we'll sing it through. As Maribel comes forward and extinguishes our chalice, we thank you, Maribel. Let's recite together in unison our benediction of love to one another. We leave this gathered community, but not our connection to one another or our sense of belonging here. In this hour together, we have inspired our hearts, grown in spirit, and deepened our commitment to care for each other and the world. So until we gather again, may we be grateful makers of peace in our lives.